Outperformance Shop is a proud supporter of Solid Rock Radio. They specialize in retail and wholesale of automotive, high-performance, racing, and off-road products. They also carry a variety of accessories from remote control cars to rock and roller multi-carts. On the web at outperformance.com. Backstage with Mothership on Solid Rock Radio begins now. Hear the best in new music, artist interviews, stories from the road, and more. You are now backstage, and here's your host, Mothership.
Hey everybody, my guests tonight are the guys from Saved by Skarlet. You may have heard their songs The Syndrome, Conquerors, and Fire Inside on Solid Rock Radio's rotation. Now you have a chance to learn a little bit more about the band and what they have happening. Let's go. All right, we have Matt, Nathan, Alex, and me.
You got it.
We're missing a drummer.
Adam isn't going to be able to come. Unfortunately, he is in Maine right now, and he is working on his bachelor's degree, I believe.
Awesome.
And he's got a lot going on.
Well, I'm glad you guys are here.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having us.
I met you guys for the first time at Uprise Festival. I'm glad y'all came over to introduce yourselves.
Yeah, that was awesome. It was so great seeing you there. I was shocked. I was like, oh my gosh.
Did you enjoy the show?
Oh, yeah. My husband and I started going about 3 years ago. Really, it's a long drive for us. It's about 11 hours drive, and we usually have to split it up into 2 days.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yep.
I think my favorite moment at Uprise seeing Cindy was when you turned around and people were starting to mosh. I think it was during War of Ages, and you ran across and you used your hands and you were like, all right, everybody out of the way now.
That's right. You use that term pretty loosely. I cannot run. I just moved as quick as I could. Yeah, I know my limitations. I can enjoy the mosh pit as long as I'm over on one of the sides and right up against the barrier where I can protect myself.
Yeah.
It's always a good time, though.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we haven't really introduced each other. Let's go ahead and do that. I'll start with Nathan. Let's hear what Nathan sounds like so everybody will know.
Hey, everybody. This is Nate Middleton, lead vocalist of Saved by Skarlet, and I love being a part of the team and so happy to be here.
All right. And Matthew Middleton.
Hey, guys. Thanks for tuning in. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here right now. I'm Matt Middleton. I'm Nate's doppelganger. We like to usually break the ice by saying God said copy paste. I'm his identical twin. He's copy on paste. I do lead guitar production and a lot of behind the scenes work with the band Saved by Skarlet.
Control C, Control V.
Control Alt Delete.
Oh, no. And the third person on here is Alexander or Alex.
My name's Alexander. I am the rhythm guitarist. I also do harsh vocals in the band. I'm the newbie in here, but it's been a pleasure working with these guys. It's honestly a brotherhood.
How long have you been with the band?
I think I've been with the band for close to a year, 9 months.
Okay.
I mean, I've been wanting to do this since I was 5. And the fact that I'm able to do this kind of stuff now, be able to live out that kind of dream. Before Saved by Skarlet, I tried to be in bands. It wouldn't happen. And then I prayed about it. So my friend Rachel already knew the guys, hung out with them. One day, they end up having a get-together and a meeting at the Denny's. I showed them some stuff I've been working on, and they loved it. I turned it down at first because I was like, oh, no, I'm already in a band. The band that I was currently in before Saved by Skarlet wasn't really going anywhere. But I wrote with them. I wrote with those guys.
What was the name of the band?
Chain of Consequence. And eventually, they started getting busy. They started doing their own thing. That's when Nate messaged me, and he said, hey, we're putting together a music video for our song, The Syndrome. We'd love you to be a part of it. So that's when, I took the offer, and now
here you are.
This is one of the best opportunities that's ever happened.
Nathan, why don't you give us a little bit of background on Saved by Skarlet?
Oh, my goodness. Saved by Skarlet has been through so many transitions. And, when I look back on it, it really does feel like a flower that has developed and has been grown and trained and is learning. And it's just amazing to see where the band is going. I say that because when we first started, we actually started as a cover band. We were a Skillet, Evanescence, and Flyleaf cover band, 3-piece band. And we loved all of those bands, and we shared a lot of the emotion that those bands displayed in their music at the time. And so the band ended up evolving and changing, throughout time. And we continued with the music, but a lot of what we did were covers. And then we began getting prophesied over at churches in different places. People kept saying things like that there would be notes going out from our music that would go over the heads of listeners, and that those notes that they would almost dance in people's hearts, and that it would resonate with them. And they even said thousands. And it was really, really impacting to hear that, because that was the first time that Saved by Skarlet had ever been recognized by someone, from a church, or even just someone who was important to us. It really resonated even more with us, because we didn't start out liking music. Like we didn't play instruments really. We didn't really do much with music. And when that person prophesied that, it was like, wow, it's really weird, because like we don't play music. We like music. We love, all these bands, but we don't play it. And frankly, my mom tried to get us to play drums, but she had to literally force us just to take drum lessons and try to get our abilities going, and we just weren't really having it. For whatever reason, it just wasn't its due time. And then all of a sudden, about the age of 16, we started, as I mentioned before, just a practice cover band jam trio. And man, it just like exploded. Like God just began to download songs onto Matthew's heart, songs onto my heart. One of our first songs was Keys to Your Heart, which was a love song I wrote. And Matt's written quite a few as well. And it just really grew from there. And, it was crazy, because we didn't have the support of a label. We didn't have the support of a record company. We didn't even have a whole lot of support even outside of those things, just natural resources. And, we tried to save money where we could. But God really, really gave us opportunities through very difficult shows, some as small as 5 people, some as big as 1,000. And we just really, really stuck with it and tried to learn. We taught ourselves how to create staging, how to do music production, the recording process, mastering, software to even do the recording process, as you know, is not easy. It's not something you can just pick up in a day. And we just really, really tried to absorb as much as we could and learn. And we tried to really shut out the voices from people who thought that rock music was of the devil too, which we know was a lie. We really, really just kept with the truth. And the truth that we knew was that we serve a God who saves, and we serve a God who saved us through Skarlet. And Skarlet represents Jesus' blood. But even more so, the band was coined Saved by Skarlet. The name Saved by Skarlet was coined by me in 2019. And I went to my brother and our drummer at the time, and I said, this is what God showed me. And I feel so unbelievably strongly that this is the name that God has given us, just like Jesus gave Peter a new name and so many other people in the Bible. And what that was really a representation of their new walk with the Lord, And it felt like that with the band. It felt very, very similar like that with the band, in the sense that we were young and we were learning, but God has taken us into a new place, and that the name is going to be meaningful and that it's going to resonate in people's hearts, And so ultimately the band name is derived from the book of Joshua. And in the book of Joshua, it talks about how God's prophets were going into Jericho. And when they were going in, they were spying, essentially, in a good way, though. They needed to spy. It was vital for the Israelites. And they ended up running from some guards, and they ducked into a person's upper room. And it ended up being Rahab, a local prostitute. And she was kind enough in that moment. She made a decision in her heart whether to hide them or expose them to the guards that would kill them. And because she did this, they said to her that God was going to have favor on her life, that God was going to spare her. And they told her, if you throw a scarlet rope out of your window, that she would be saved when the inevitable battle happens and when the city collapses. And she said, but wait, what about my family? And they said, your family will be spared too. That really, really impacted me, because, here's this prostitute where most of the world has rejected, and Christians have also rejected. So at that time, you had to be very brave. That really impacted me when I was reading it, because number one, the word scarlet just always sounds so cool to me. And I really love it. And I love the color scarlet, but it really, really shook my brain, so to speak, because I realized the scarlet rope represented Jesus's blood that would be poured out for mankind in the future. And at this time, Rahab didn't know that. And she was just following what they were telling her to do. because she loved her family and because in that moment she chose to love the Lord. And God did spare her life and her family's life. And that was a representation of how God was going to send Jesus, and Jesus would die on the cross, and Jesus would save not just a couple people, but that he would save the whole family, so to speak, and give that opportunity to accept Christ into our hearts and have a personal relationship with God. The other ironic thing is, I don't know if all of you listeners know this or not, but Rahab actually is in the genealogy of Jesus. Mm-hmm. And that really, really shook me to the core, because it was like, wow, here's this defining moment where she made a split-second decision that altered her life and put her in the same gene pool as Jesus. Think about that. That's incredible. So that is why our band name is Saved by Skarlet.
Amen.
Backstage with Mothership returns after this. Check us out on Facebook at I'm with Mothership.
Matt, twin brother of Nate, who is lead guitarist, tell us about your music releases. I know you started in about 2016 releasing a single. Tell us about that and your album Out of Darkness.
Well, that's a great question, Cindy. We actually began releasing our music way back when. I want to say we were probably around 16 years old, and our first release was a love ballad called Keys to Your Heart that Nate mentioned, and then we released our first rock song called Feel the Enemy. And for many people, there's actually this kind of like little hidden understanding amongst like the inner circle of Saved by Skarlet that Out of Darkness was actually in parentheses after the title Feel the Enemy. And so it's kind of funny, like how our new album Out of Darkness, how that name still transcends, to this day, so to speak. We wanted to really use what God had really like poured into my heart as like a beautiful picture, something symbolic for people to almost visualize. I feel like a lot of times people have a hard time with understanding God because they want to just see him. And so I wanted to make something visual in the sense where we would tell a story and depict songs in an order in which would depict kind of this imagery of our lives being in darkness. We're born into darkness. We don't choose to be born. It happens. And as we know, we live in a fallen world. There's a lot going on. Just turn on the news, right? And so we wanted to depict this picture of light bearers. In 1 Peter, I believe it says that God sets apart his chosen people to be set apart to encourage others to love other people and glorify God, in my summarization. And so the album Out of Darkness was released 2 years ago, and we chose that name because of what I just explained, how we want to be image bearers for Christ. We want to show people that there's a hope and a way out of depressing situations, and there's a way out of suicidal thinking, and there is a way out for every single situation that a human could possibly encounter. There's always a way out. It doesn't mean that it won't be hard, but it certainly is an option. And so we wanted to present that to our listeners, and especially targeting our younger listeners who are growing up in such a unprecedented time that we're in right now. And so Out of Darkness, as you mentioned, Cindy, which came out 2 years ago, began with releasing our single Conquerors, which is focused around my brother actually had written the lyrics for that, and I had written the music along with my brother writing the drums for it. And Conquerors is about overcoming fear, fighting alongside those people you love for the greater victory, which we know is in Christ. And Conquerors was released in, what would you say, Nate? Probably 5 years ago, I want to say.
It actually was digitally distributed as of 2017. That was the original Conquerors, and then we ended up including the new Conquerors, which just had a slightly different master over it with the rest of the album.
So Conquerors was kind of our appetizer before the big meal. We wanted to get people hyped and ready and excited for what was to come.
And then Fire Inside was released in 2018.
And how are those songs done for y'all?
Well, Conquerors has been an absolute success. My brother knows all the analytics, so I don't know, Nate, if you want to share a little bit about those the logistics behind, how many people are viewing and how many people have listened to Conquerors alone is astronomical. Right now, I believe our top listened to song is The Syndrome, but Conquerors has, what was it, 42,000, Nate?
Right now, Conquerors on Spotify has done really well. It has over 53,000 organic views, or listens, as you will. And then the Syndrome is close by. It has almost 20,000. So Conquerors is doing really well on Spotify, but the Syndrome is doing the best out of everything on YouTube right now because of the new official music video that we put out, which is high quality. It was really well done. It's in 4K high resolution, just about 54,000. It's at 53,900 something.
Tell us about adding Alex to your lineup.
Oh, Alex is such an awesome asset to the team. He's been doing so well. I believe my brother may have talked to him first at Rock the Block, a show that we had performed at, and he was a friend of a friend. And he came, and it was really awesome to meet him because he had energy, he had passion for guitar, he loved talking about music, and we had a lot of the same similar tastes. And then he showed us a clip of some of his guitar riffs that he was practicing and learning and covering different songs. And he was very, very good at guitar, and I really, really liked him also as a person. And so we were like, hey, you know what? Let's talk about the Lord. So we had some real talk, about the Lord, and just asked him genuinely where he sat with that. Alex, feel free to take the wheel if you want on that with your encounter with the Lord in SBS.
By the way, that was actually Nate that I met first. And me and Nate just hit it off right off the bat. Like I said, I was struggling to be in a band like this for a long time. And finally, I think I broke down and prayed about it. Insane to me, because this is something I've been wanting for years. And for it to actually finally happen because I prayed about it, it was like mind-blowing. And I think shortly after that, when I joined the band, I think it was either Nate or Matt who opened me up to the idea of going to church with them. And there's a church, it's called Awakening Church, and it is probably one of the most fantastic churches I've ever been to in my life. Like before I was actually a born-again Christian, I didn't really pay attention that much in church, and it was a very monotone style. But Pastor Jordan is he's a younger guy. He's he brings truth to the word. He does it in a certain kind of way that just intrigues you, and it just brings you in. Like, I've never experienced that. The style of music they do, it's completely new, and I'm so glad that the boys actually exposed me to something like that.
What's the Saved by Skarlet song that speaks to you the most?
Okay, this one's tough because Conquerors was the first song I heard by them. And that's what drew me in the first place. The fact that I'm actually playing it now is just so surreal. And the Syndrome is actually really big to me, too, because I think I had like a month to learn that. Probably a little less than that. I don't know. How long was it?
That was one of the things that drew us into Alex, too, because he was willing to take on one of our hardest songs, well, the hardest song, and do it literally before learning any other song. It felt so backwards, but it still worked, which was very, very perplexing, but also like, wow, we can actually do this. Like, Yeah.
Well, Nate, what's the most personal song for you?
Oh, the most personal song would definitely be Surrender All. I mean, that's the song that like I just really, really there were some parts of my life that were excruciatingly difficult, and it was usually due to a bunch of things happening at once. I almost died 3 times. I was emotionally abused, lack of sleep, depression. I'm sure I had some PTSD. There was just a lot to it, and really just came to my breaking point, and God really did save my life through a miracle, a tangible miracle, and an undeniable miracle. And so when we fast forward, when we were creating this album, and I was in the studio room, and I just remember sitting there thinking, man, this all sounds like really good. We're self-produced, and it's not 100% perfect, but we're college students, and we're just a couple of kids that seriously love to do music and are serious about our passion, So I was sitting there, and I just had this wave, this almost like an anchor was just dropped onto me, and it felt so heavy. And I just felt God saying in my heart, you've got the praise, you've got the exciting rock, you've got the deeper, heavier rock, but like, what about something that will captivate people's hearts in a way that it'll just grab their attention and take them through a journey? I wanted to walk people through a journey of a song. And at the end of the song, I really wanted that song to create a sense of fulfillment, of completion and joy, but walking them through a dark and troublesome road. And really that was like my life story kind of. And I really, really, really felt strongly that we were to put it on this album. We did end up putting it out on the album between myself, my fiance, Sarah, Matt, and really put all of the instruments together. And within a couple of days, we officially had Surrender All completed, and is today one of the most beloved songs. And it's definitely hard hitting if you haven't heard it.
I've actually heard it. And if you saw my notes here, tell me about Surrender All. It seems very personal. So I picked up on that.
Yes, it definitely is. And we make that known online too, because we want people to know that sometimes listeners feel disconnected from the band. And we work incredulously hard to cut out that separation. And so that people feel like they are with us, like that we're doing this with them, that we're singing with them, and that we are rocking the heck out with them, you know.
Nice.
You're listening to Backstage with Mothership on Solid Rock Radio.
Which Saved by Skarlet song speaks to you the most, Matt? Surrender All also yours, or do you have another one?
Yeah. So for me, one of the more personal songs on the album is a song I wrote called When I'm Cold. And that's a song that it's not quite as popular as Surrender All. That's for several reasons. We ended up having a lot of different changes with the song. And people who were in my life ended up, leaving my life for certain reasons. And so there were some technical complications with the production of that song. So that was tricky, but I knew that it was supposed to be something that I kind of produced anyway. I really wrote the entire song, and my brother helped with mastering the drums a little bit. And When I'm Cold is a story about just kind of humanity in its nutshell, where people find themselves growing so cold in their hearts that they're not even saying hello to their neighbors, not even acknowledging one another, but rather just focusing on themselves. But the beauty of the song is I actually wrote it due to a personal experience I had growing up, where I would have nightmares, and I would go, crying to my mom, and she would sit me down. We'd listen to worship, and I'd fall asleep in her arms. And so I decided one Mother's Day, that was around the time that we were in the studio creating songs, that I was going to write something for my mom. And so When I'm Cold is a depiction of how people's hearts can be so cold and burdened by, the stressors of life, but can be thawed out when, encountering people who love Christ, who love God, who are there to wrap their arms around you and keep you warm, to help you survive, to help you keep going. So that's what When I'm Cold's about. And it's kind of neat because it has a really broad stroke of a message in it if you listen closely to the lyrics. And it has a lot to do with, ice and just the cold atmosphere and whatnot, for a very specific reason, mainly addressing and hopefully captivating individuals who feel as though they've become numb to life's many traumas and whatnot. But the song brings the solution of feeling warmth again. And that implication is, it's a factor that implies, like the closer that you get to God, or / insert a person that means a lot to you, the more that, you feel the warmth of your heart beating again, and you feel like you're alive again. So, of course, that can also be tied into Jesus. But on a more personal level, it's really a song written for my mom.
Well, now we've got more insight into a couple of the songs. Thank you. Best musical advice you've been offered by a veteran?
Oh, man. Nate, you want to take this one, or maybe we can all chip in, because I got something to say about that.
Yeah, I think there were a couple of people in our life that really did help and that offered some expertise. There was one person, Matt Tarpey, who was someone who taught us guitar and did an excellent job doing so. He was really great. I would say probably the best thing, if I were to pinpoint one, would be one time after performing, someone told me, "You've done really, really well with your craft. Don't let anybody hold you back." And, there was a lot of feelings within church, within even in the secular world. There were some people who were like, oh, wow, like you think you can do this rock stuff, and you think like because you've got like the lights and some fog geysers and stuff that you can make it. And I feel like some people were like intimidated, and it kind of like backlashed on us a little bit. And I feel like that really helped me like step over that threshold of holding back just because other people were holding me back. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And when we did that, it was so much more freeing. And I felt like I could just really be who I wanted to be on stage, even if people didn't understand it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so that really like, it gave me more motivation to do like what we do on stage and like to coordinate things and be colorful with what we do, in our presence. That was definitely one of the best things that was said to me. It really, really helped boost me.
Matt, you said you had one?
Have fun with it no matter what, because so many difficulties are going to come in the way and try and stop everything from being perfect. My word of advice was don't look for perfection. It'll never be that. It's not practical. However, you can certainly get as close as you want to that, and that's great. But no matter what, if you're going to slip, things aren't going the way that you were hoping that they would go, just have fun with it. God wants you to be blessed in the process. By being used by him is supposed to be a blessing, not a curse. So through all those tough times where, you're strapped for cash because you're touring and don't have much food except for fast food, just try and have fun with it to get through the tough parts of it, because it's worth it in the end. You're impacting souls.
Amen. Is the advice you were given the same thing you'd share to someone new to the industry?
Yeah, I mean, I would also say don't listen to what other people say about your music. And I would also say be prepared if you're ready for this. If you're truly ready for this, hire a therapist, because a lot of coordination that's going to, be involved. A lot of anytime you're managing people, it's a tough thing to do. It's really not an easy thing to do if you're an independent label. So I would certainly say make sure you have like a good, strong, natural support system. So, for example, like, maybe just a couple friends you can rely on to call when you're frustrated because so-and-so didn't do what they were supposed to and it ruined the show or something. Not that that's happened to us, but I'm just trying to think of scenarios. But we certainly have had enough trials that we've been through to be able to say like, hey, I think it's important to have someone that you can call. It doesn't have to necessarily be a therapist, but
it might help.
And I was going to say the one thing I've learned, because since this is actually the first band, actually official band that I'm playing out with, I think the thing that I'm learning out of this is, roll with the punches, whatever happens, just keep rolling with it. I mean, there's times where we've had technical difficulties. There's times where things won't always turn out as planned, but it's how you deal with it. It's how you cope with it that counts. If you can pull it off, then do it.
Amen. Good word. What's next for you guys?
Well, we've been trying to work on new music.
We definitely have some new music that we're working on. It's a little bit different, but it's a good different, and it's something that's polished and refined and post-hardcore, metalcore, hard rock, and dare I even say punk fans will really like and enjoy. Right down their alley. But we're excited. We've got big plans, and this year, with the festivals that we'll be attending, we'll hopefully be performing with Oh Sleeper. It's a possibility. It's out there, but it is a possibility that we might be opening for Skillet.
Oh, that would be cool. I hope that happens.
I've been waiting for this since I was 14, man. Skillet was my inspiration.
Aw. Alex, what is your favorite road snack?
Oh, man. Wow, probably Nutri-Grain bars, something like that.
Okay. Matt, your favorite road snack?
I would have to say mine would definitely be Junior Whopper from Burger King, large fry, a cup of water on the rocks, and Lay's baked potato chips. That's my road snack.
Oh, okay. Can't just eat one.
That's right.
All right, Nate.
I really like French fries. I really enjoy chippies. You can't call them chips; they're chippies. And I really like Doritos, Tostitos, Cheerios. I would eat something that ends in O's, apparently.
Okay. Oreos? Raviolios?
Yes.
Ravioli, give me the formioli.
Yeah. Well, it's been great getting to know you guys better. I really enjoyed actually meeting you, like I said, at Uprise, and I hope to see you out there actually performing on the road sometime. Talk to you soon. Good night.
Have a good night.
All right, bye.
We appreciate you.
Thank you for listening tonight. Stay tuned for more great music all night long. Be sure to check out my I'm with Mothership Facebook page and Solid Rock Radio's website. Follow the link under shows to Backstage with Mothership, which will have the links to my guests' social media accounts. This show will be replayed at 4 a.m. Eastern Time. Past interviews available on podcast.solidrockradio.org, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on Pandora platforms. And remember this week, be kind to one another.